I will explain myself, but this will be to take the most useless, most superfluous precaution, for everything that I will tell you could only be understood by those who do not need to be told. Virtue is a state of war, and to live in it means one always has some battle to wage against oneself. Do not judge, and you will never be mistaken. Allowing that nature intended we should always enjoy good health, I dare almost affirm that a state of reflection is a state against nature, and that the man who meditates is a depraved animal. The training of children is a profession, where we must know how to waste time in order to save it. Our affections as well as our bodies are in perpetual flux. Heroes are not known by the loftiness of their carriage. The greatest braggarts are generally the merest cowards. Sacrifice life to truth. In instinct alone, man had everything he needed in order to live in the state of nature. In a cultivated reason, he has only what he needs to live in society. Taste is, so to speak, the microscope of the judgment. As long as there are rich people in the world, they will be desirous of distinguishing themselves from the poor. Or rather, let us be more simple and less vain. Social man lives constantly outside himself. The apparent ease with which children learn is their ruin. The bounds of human possibility are not as confining as we think they are. They are made to seem to be tight by our weaknesses, our vices, our prejudices that confine them. Disdaining so as really to enjoy is the epicurism, the very perfection of reason. He who pretends to look upon death without fear lies. I am 100 times happier in my solitude than I could be if I lived among them. Nations, like men, are teachable only in their youth. With age they become incorrigible. Once customs are established and prejudices rooted, reform is a dangerous and fruitless enterprise. A people cannot bear to see its evils touched, even if only to be eradicated. A man speaks of what he knows, a woman of what pleases her. The one requires knowledge, the other taste. To decide that the son of a slave is born a slave is to decide that he is not born a man. The opportunity of making happy is more scarce than we imagine. The punishment of missing it is never to meet with it again, and the use we make of it leaves us an eternal sentiment of satisfaction or repentance. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. It is easier to conquer than to administer. With enough leverage, a finger could overturn the world, but to support the world, one must have the shoulders of Hercules. We are born weak, we need strength; helpless, we need aid; foolish, we need reason. All that we lack at birth, all that we need when we come to man's estate, is the gift of education. You are worried about seeing him spend his early years in doing nothing. What is it nothing to be happy? Nothing to skip, play, and run around all day long. Never in his life will he be so busy again. With children use force, with men reason. Such is the natural order of things. The wise man requires no lore. Above all, he is jealous of his own self-respect. This is his most valued possession, and it would be a real loss to him were he to acquire the respect of others at the expense of his own. It is manifestly contrary to the law of nature, however defined, that a handful of people should gorge themselves with superfluities, while the hungry majority goes in need of necessities. Freedom is the power to choose our own chains. I have never believed that man's freedom consisted in doing what he wants, but rather in never doing what he does not want to do. Whoever blushes is already guilty. True innocence is ashamed of nothing. The truth brings no man a fortune. The tone of good conversation is brilliant and natural. It is neither tedious nor frivolous. It is instructive without pedantry, gay without tumultuousness, polished without affectation, gallant without insipidity, waggish without equivocation. To renounce freedom is to renounce one's humanity, one's rights as a man, and equally one's duties. Base souls have no faith in great individuals. There are times when I am so unlike myself that I might be taken for someone else of an entirely opposite character. It is too difficult to think nobly when one thinks only of earning a living. The falsification of history has done more to impede human development than any one thing known to mankind. We can never put ourselves in the shoes of children. We cannot fathom their thoughts. We lend them ours, and always following our own reasoning, we stuff their heads with extravagance and error. Government in its infancy had no regular and permanent form. For want of a sufficient fund of philosophy and experience, men could see no further than the present inconveniences, and never thought of providing remedies for future ones, but in proportion as they arose. We are born, so to speak, twice over, born into existence, and born into life, born a human being, and born a man. An honest man nearly always thinks justly. Insults are the arguments employed by those who are in the wrong. Money which a man possesses is the instrument of freedom. That which we eagerly pursue is the instrument of slavery. Therefore I hold fast to that which I have, and desire nothing. Every free action has two causes that come together to produce it. One is moral, the will that determines the act. The other is physical, the power that executes the will to act. Generally we obtain very surely and very speedily what we are not too anxious to obtain. The bigger a state becomes, the more liberty diminishes. In crowds it is stupidity and not mother wit that is accumulated. A man who is not a fool can rid himself of every folly except vanity. The want of occupation is no less the plague of society than of solitude. If by chance someone among those men of extraordinary talent is found who has firmness of soul and who refuses to yield to the genius of his age and to debase himself with childish works, woe unto him, he will die in poverty and oblivion. Once you teach people to say what they do not understand, it is easy enough to get them to say anything you like. Do I dare set forth here the most important, the most useful rule of all education? It is not to save time, but to squander it. Physical evils destroy themselves, or they destroy us.